It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Friday, March 27th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Rain this morning, clouds this afternoon. Temps are actually going to fall through the day. So right now it's near 60, but by this afternoon it's only going to be in the mid-40s. Isn't that fun? Saturday, sunshine, the high only 44. Better for Sunday. Sun and clouds, high 53. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 55 cloudy in Spring Valley up in Rockland, 59 and cloudy in Cranford over in New Jersey, and it's 58 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
It looks like Rex Heuermann is about to fess up to being the Gilgo Beach killer. TSA workers may finally get paid. 2 more teen shootings in the city. Who's smashing church statues in Queens? And a huge surprise on the beach in the Rockaways. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Some breaking news. The Senate and senators were up late into this morning. The Senate early this morning approving Homeland Security funds to pay TSA agents and most other agencies, but not ICE operations, which is at the heart of this budget impasse that's gone on for a while now, that has jammed airports, disrupted travel, and posed all this financial hardship on those TSA workers. So the deal, which the Senate approved unanimously early this morning without a roll call, next goes to the House, which is expected to consider it later this morning. So we'll have more on that coming up. But it looks like maybe slowly this partial government shutdown might end if this goes back to the House and the House gives it the thumbs up. Back here in New York, alleged serial killer Rex Heuermann is next due to appear in court on April 8th, where it's expected he will and could change his plea to guilty and admit to the murders of the women whose remains were found near Gilgo Beach and elsewhere on Long Island. Suffolk County DA is kind of mum on this, but they charged Heuermann with the deaths of 7 women. They declined to comment on this story that was in Newsday yesterday. An attorney for Heuermann did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Heuermann has pled not guilty and is scheduled to stand trial come September in Riverhead, where he has been held since July of 2023. Since his arrest, the expectation of Heuermann's plea charge was first reported yesterday or late yesterday by Newsday. Heuermann, you might remember, he did not appear at a routine court appearance last week. Now, whether that was connected to this change in plea, we do not know, but at the time his lawyer said that he wasn't there because he was having health issues. 5:02. A federal judge rejecting deposed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's attempt to have his case against him dismissed. Maduro, who was captured in January during a U.S. military raid on his compound, appeared in court here yesterday. Mitch McCann has more.
Nicolas Maduro's lawyer, Barry Pollock, has told the court he will have to withdraw from his role in defending the former Venezuelan president if he's unable to be paid after the U.S. government blocked Venezuela from funding his defense. Initially, the Treasury Department had allowed that to happen, but later blamed an administrative error and said it would not permit a sanctioned state to pay for the defense of a sanctioned individual. It added that Maduro is welcome to pay out of his own pocket, something he says he cannot afford to do. Maduro could be given a court-appointed lawyer, but Mr. Pollock is a prominent defense attorney who has represented a number of high-profile figures, including WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Maduro also argues he has sovereign immunity from prosecution under international law. Mitch McCann, New York.
5:03. Police searching for a gunman after a kid was shot in Brooklyn. This was last evening. Rushed to the hospital. Someone in a group of young men opened fire on Bristol Street. This was in Brownsville, hitting the 9-year-old in the leg. Police say he was definitely not the intended target.
They was just only walking up the block, but I kind of had a feeling something was going to happen.
Were people fighting, yelling?
No. nothing at all. There was no chaos, no arguments, no nothing.
Of course, it was a beautiful night, so there was tons of people out on the street. 2 or 3 gunshots rang out. Young people scattered. The 9-year-old taken to Brookdale Hospital, wounded leg. His aunt rushed to the scene. She says the boy was actually walking over to her building to invite his cousin outside to play when he was shot.
A nice little boy from the community. He don't do nothing. He just came to come outside to play.
The good news is he'll be okay. Neighbors who do live in the Marcus Garvey apartment community where these bullets were flying say it's usually safe for kids just to be outside in that neighborhood.
For this 9-year-old boy that I've known that plays with my kids, it's very sad, and now I'm afraid for my kid's life as well.
Yeah, so police going through video from many cameras on the block to figure out exactly who brought a gun there and then pulled the trigger. 5:05, another teen shooting. They would feel like we're doing this like day after day. This is up in the Bronx. A Bronx teenager facing a murder charge now for allegedly shooting a 21-year-old in the head. This was near the Woodlawn train station yesterday. The victim, Assam Al-Shaif, who lives in the Bronx.
Oh my God, that's so sad. That's really sad. I am so shocked. There's a shooting right, I should say by my doorstep because I'm here every day,
Now, police told us they've arrested 18-year-old Jador Reed at the scene. He's from the Bronx as well. He's been charged with murder, manslaughter, criminal possession of a weapon. No motive so far for why he shot this 21-year-old. It happened to tons of people around. Asif was rushed to St. Barnabas Hospital where he passed away.
I have a kid, and he's, it makes me worry about, what goes on in the area.
Yeah, so again, police not giving us a motive, but of course they do have somebody in custody. 5:06, the annual battle over rent hikes for people living in 1 million rent-regulated apartments here in the city. It started yesterday. It was the first meeting of the Rent Guidelines Board with a bunch of new members who have been appointed by Mayor Mamdani. During the campaign, the mayor promised to make housing affordable here in the city by freezing rent. That won't be necessarily easy to do. New York City right now has the lowest vacancy rate of any major city in America. More than 98% of all apartments are occupied, which means that apartment hunters are vying for fewer than 2% of the city's housing stock. That's the reason the average rent here in Manhattan is $5,000 a month, $4,300 in Brooklyn. At its first meeting yesterday, the board heard from Emily Eisner of the Fiscal Policy Institute, who suggested building owners and landlords are making enough money.
When it comes to how much rent they're bringing in and what it costs to maintain a building, most of the buildings in the city are healthy.
Rent Guidelines Board is facing pressure to hold the line on the 40% of apartments that are rent regulated. They're stabilized right now. One bedroom's roughly $1,500 if you're in a rent regulated apartment. But some experts who, this guy's from the New York Apartment Association, he says, no, you can't hold the line on these rents because the building owners, a lot of them are just small-time business owners, and they are not making money.
Property taxes are up double digits. Insurance is through the roof. Costs like water, sewer, labor, maintenance, all of this that comes in, especially from local laws passed by the city, are not capped in their costs.
Rent Guidelines Board never has an easy task. The board has a series of meetings on the calendar. Of course, they always get an earful from landlords and tenants. Their final vote on a rent hike would come in June. WABC News Time 509. Okay. In overseas, the war in Iran, there's missiles flying through the sky overnight into this morning. Kuwaiti authorities reporting another attack on their country's infrastructure. This one targeting a port in Bubayan. I may be saying that name. I'm not familiar with that island. In the latest war update, Israel's military says it carried out airstrikes hitting Iran's main production facility for missiles and sea mines. That was overnight. And the cybersecurity watchdog NetBlocks says there continues to be a near total internet blackout in Iran. They say it's 28 days straight. Meanwhile, President Trump says he is pausing strikes against energy plants in Iran for another 10 days because he says Iran has asked him to do so.
They asked for 7. You're going to say, oh, Trump's a terrible negotiator. They asked for 7. And I said, I'm going to give you 10.
The U.S. is reportedly working with a group of mediators in the Middle East to end the war in Iran. The president had given Iran until Friday today to open the Strait of Hormuz or face attacks on its energy infrastructure. That's the pause he's given them now.
Importantly, they said to me, very nicely, through my people, could we have more time? They asked for 7, and I gave them 10. You got 10 days. And they were very thankful about that.
Now, earlier in the day, the president held a cabinet meeting. They talked about this as well. He said that Iran was begging him to hold off just a few more days.
I don't know if we'll be able to do that. I don't know if we're willing to do that. They should have done that 4 weeks ago. They should have done it 2 years ago.
So we're nearing the 1 month mark of this war. President continues to stress that the big deal here is he wants to make sure Iran can never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon.
Their air force is gone. Their anti-aircraft and communications capabilities are totally dismantled. And if anybody thinks it was okay to have a group of people like this to have nuclear capability, nuclear weapons, and if we didn't attack with the B-2 bombers, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks of that, maybe 4 weeks.
Yeah, we continue, though, to see missiles fly between Iran and the U.S. This morning, or not the U.S., I should say, between Iran, U.S. firing on Iran, Iran firing on the Middle East. 5:11, gas prices obviously much higher in the past several weeks since the U.S. and Israel started that war in Iran, but fertilizers also costing more. Farmers have been hit with the higher prices, and if they failed to lock them in before the war, they're paying a lot more today, and that's something this Iowa farmer says is not going too well for him.
Prior to the Iran war, fertilizer was up 30 to 40%. Prior to the war, since the war, it has escalated even more.
Yeah, so fertilizer prices have jumped from $240 a ton in 2025. Now it's over $480 a ton. So guess who farmers are going to pass those costs on to?
Now, if you don't do that and you wait till spring to want to buy your fertilizers and stuff, then it's going to be significantly more.
Yeah, and that's what some of those farmers are facing this morning. 512. As we told you, the Senate early this morning approving Homeland Security funds that would pay TSA agents and most other agencies, but not immigration enforcement operations, which is at the heart of this budget impasse. Now, the airlines had been pressuring the Congress and Senate to get something done because it's been such a nightmare at the airports for people waiting in those TSA lines. One of those people pressuring Congress, United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby.
It is unconscionable that our government officials are leaving them without paychecks when they're doing a vital security service.
Now, this bill was passed unanimously early this morning in the Senate. It'll go back over to the House. And yesterday, the House passed a funding bill for the Department of Homeland Security through September. So I don't know how this is all going to jive. But here was Speaker Mike Johnson yesterday.
We have to solve the problem, and it's very sad that Democrats are not interested in doing that.
Now, 9 Democrats voted with Republicans in Congress in support of this latest bill from the House.
So many people have been through so many hardships because of this nonsense. And what we're concerned about is people may actually be hurt. More people harmed by criminal illegal aliens than are being protected by the Democrat Party. We're sick of it.
Okay, so we'll see what the Senate bill does and whether they take up a vote in the House a little bit later this morning. 5:14, Meta and Google planning to appeal after a jury in L.A. found them negligent in that landmark social media trial this week. Correspondent Laura Jarrett has more.
Jurors awarding $6 million, including punitive damages, to a now 20-year-old woman who says she became depressed after using Instagram since the age of 9. Her attorney telling us it's the hardest case he's ever tried.
Parent companies of Instagram and YouTube were accused of using design features such as infinite scroll and autoplay to hook young users. Earlier this week, a civil trial in New Mexico ordered Meta to pay $375 million in damages, finding that it failed to safeguard its apps from online predators who target children. Meta and Google have been ordered to pay $6 million in damages by a separate California jury.
The civil verdict in Los Angeles, the second this week, after a New Mexico jury awarded the state $375 million against Meta on Tuesday, accused there of failing to warn users about the platform's dangers.
Now, Mark Lanier, he was the attorney for the young woman in that L.A. case. He says it was difficult.
This is not a case where someone lost a leg. This is not a case where someone is dead. This is a case where someone has social anxiety. Social media took a bad condition in her life and made it worse.
Meta spokesperson Ashley Nicole Davis says the company disagrees with the verdict. They'll appeal.
Teen mental health is profoundly complex and cannot be linked to a single app.
Now, there's lots of people who have pending lawsuits against these social media companies, and they say this verdict is sort of bittersweet.
To me, it's more validation that they knew what they were doing, because a victory means we won. And when we as parents that have lost kids, that's not winning.
Yeah, awfully interesting to see how this is all going to play out. In a moment, we'll hear from the president and why he thinks it's okay for him to have it a mail-in ballot, but not for the rest of us. We'll get into that story in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noam Layden. Start on the diamond in Queens. Mets opening day at Citi Field, and they laid the lumber down on reigning Cy Young Award winner Paul Skeens. Final score 11-7. 5-run first inning for the Mets bats, knocking out the reigning Cy Young Award winner in Skeens after just 37 pitches. On the other side of things, Freddie Peralta, he went 5 innings in his Mets debut, allowing 4 runs on 6 hits and striking out 7 Pirates en route to his first win. Marcus Semien had a double off Skeens. Brett Beatty had a big triple off Skeens. And you had homers from Alvarez, 6th inning off of Lawrence, and the rookie, Benji, just made the team a few days ago, last few days of spring training. He comes out opening day and puts one in the seats in the 6th inning as well. Mets open their year with a big win over the Pirates. Today, 4:35 p.m. this afternoon, the Yankees, they're back at it against the Giants after an off day yesterday. Cam Schlittler will get the start there. Head to the hardwood in Charlotte. Knicks lost 114-103 to the Hornets, snapping a 7-game winning streak. Jalen Brunson at 26-13 for the Knicks, who would have clinched a playoff berth with a victory. Up next for them, they'll be at Oklahoma City come Sunday night. Nets back at it tonight in L.A. against the Lakers. That's a 10:30 p.m. start there. Head to Sweet 16 action in the NCAA men's basketball tournament yesterday. Purdue beating Texas 79-77 in the West region. Iowa beating Nebraska 77-71 in the South region. Back to the West region where Arizona ran a rough shot on Arkansas 109-88. And Illinois beat Houston 65-55 in the South region. So Iowa will play Illinois in the Elite Eight tomorrow, and Purdue will face Arizona. Tonight, Sweet 16 resumes. 5-seed St. John's. We're all looking ahead to this one versus 1-seed Duke. The Blue Devils there, 6.5-point favorites at 7-10. At 7:35, 4-seed Alabama against 1-seed Michigan. Michigan there, 8.5-point favorites. 9:45 p.m. tonight, Michigan State against 2-seed UConn. The Huskies, 1.5-point favorites there. And wrapping out the action tonight for the Sweet 16, 10:10 p.m., Tennessee versus Iowa State. The 2-seed Iowa State there, 3.5-point favorites in the Midwest region.
That's a good night of basketball.
How about that? Sit down when you get home, Noam Layden. You throw on the Yanks, 4:15. All right, let that go for a couple hours, kick your feet up.
Right.
And then you throw on Johnny's. How about that?
I have company coming over. How do I do? I don't know how to make that happen. Do I just leave the room every 5 minutes and turn on the game?
You're sick. You're sick. It's very contagious.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I should. When they come in, I'll be wearing a mask.
Yeah, you have COVID.
Yeah.
Everybody get away from me. This is my COVID room.
Right.
Oh, that TV's pretty loud in there, Gnome. You seem to be pretty up and at 'em for somebody with COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. The Johnnies are on. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
I tried to get my wife to cancel, but she said that was rude, so.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you there. Yeah. Good luck on the ice. Out in Elmont, the Islanders, they beat the Stars 2-1. Out in Nashville, the Devils, they double up the Predators 4-2. Rangers back at it tonight at home at the Garden. They'll welcome the Blackhawks at 7 p.m. That's your Sports Now. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 521. President Trump explaining why he voted via mail-in ballot for an upcoming Florida special election. He said he voted by mail because he's the president, and he felt it was better to be in Washington, D.C.
Because of the fact that I'm president of the United States, I did a mail-in ballot for elections that took place in Florida because I felt I should be here instead of being in the beautiful sunshine.
President Trump has been against mail-in voting overall, as he's called it mail-in cheating. When pressed about recently being in Palm Beach, Florida, he said again that he couldn't be there, and he went on to say that for several reasons, that's why his mail-in vote is valid.
We have exceptions for mail-in ballots. You do know that, right? So if you're away, we have an exception. If you're in the military, we have an exception. If you're on a business trip, we have an exception. If you're disabled, we have an exception. And if you're ill.
The president yesterday also talking about the White House has a connection with that Loyola University student from Westchester who was shot and killed in Chicago, allegedly by an illegal immigrant. The president says the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Dan Scavino, is good friends with the father of 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman.
And he took it very hard. Dan took it very hard. He liked the father, friends. They grew up together.
Cops say Sheridan murdered by Jose Medina, who's from Venezuela, while walking in a park with friends last week. ICE says Medina's been living in the country illegally after entering in 2023, has a lengthy rap.
A beautiful young lady was killed the other day, and the father was a very good friend of Dan Scavino.
The president says Gorman would still be here today if Democratic leaders in Illinois would work with his administration to deport illegal immigrants. 523, the International Olympic Committee has announced big changes when the games are played in Los Angeles come 2028. Transgender athletes will be banned from women's events.
The policy that we have announced is based on science, and it has been led by medical experts with the best interests of athletes at its heart.
The IOC's Christy Coventry says the new rules promote fairness, safety. The debate over transgender sports participation has been looming large in state politics in California. Governor Gavin Newsom said it would be deeply unfair to female competitors. Betty Yee, who's running to replace him, says she was open to having athletes of all gender identities compete in certain categories.
Male chromosomes give performance advantages in sports that rely on strength, power, or endurance.
Yeah, so Coventry says all studies show that male chromosomes give advantages in sports, and so that's why they're going to ban this idea.
At the Olympic Games, even the smallest margins can be the difference between victory and defeat.
That's absolutely true. 524, Today Show host Savannah Guthrie says when she first learned her mother was missing, she went into a total panic. She says her family first thought Nancy Guthrie might have had a medical episode and was taken away by paramedics. She sat down for an interview on the Today Show with her good friend Hoda Kotb.
The back doors were propped open, and that didn't make any sense. We thought maybe they came and there was a stretcher and they took her out the back, but her phone was there and her purse was there.
Guthrie family continues to offer $1 million reward that leads to her mother. Savannah Guthrie says she was aware that someone may have tried to make a quick buck by abducting the mother of a famous person like herself. And she says that's incredibly heartbreaking that she may be the reason her mother was abducted.
Which is too much to bear. To think that I brought this to her bedside. That it's because of me.
Yeah, this was a rough interview to watch. I guess part 2 is today. Savannah Guthrie just pleading with anybody who has any information to just come forward.
We cannot be at peace without knowing. And someone can do the right thing. And it is never too late to do the right thing.
WABC News Time 525. Tuberculosis making a comeback now in the U.S., including right here in New York.
The CDC says more than 10,000 TB cases were reported in America last year, including 967 in New York. That's the most of any U.S. city, and that reverses 3 decades of decline. The disease, also known as white plague, primarily affects the lungs and is the world's deadliest infectious disease. Health experts say cases are often missed because TB can be mistaken for flu or RSV. Delays in treatment have led to a surge in antibiotic resistance to first-line tuberculosis drugs. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
A little more health news. A new study shows an increase in telehealth services of young adults seeking abortion pills.
A recent study published in JAMA Health Forum found that teens in the U.S. are increasingly using telehealth services to obtain medication abortion pills, with young people aged 18 to 24 ordering medication abortions at higher rates than older adults. The study analyzed requests for medication made to an online telemedicine service and compared requests before and after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June 2022. I'm Katie Gray.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Friday, March 27th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Going to see some rain this morning. Clouds this afternoon. Now, it's warm now. It's almost 60, but the temps are going to fall through the day. So by this afternoon, we're going to be in the mid-40s. And then Saturday, sunshine, high 44. Sunday, sun and clouds, high 53. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 55 cloudy in Spring Valley up in Rockland. 59 and cloudy in Cranford over in New Jersey. And it's 58 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:39. Let's head over to the Rockaways. A dead whale washed ashore on Rockaway Beach near Beach 95th Street yesterday. The sei whale, approximately 30 to 40 feet in length, washed up overnight after it was spotted in the water Wednesday night, so they knew at some point it would likely reach the beach. And people raced over to take a look at it.
I'm wondering, how that happened. Where's the rest of his pod? And will the wildlife rescue be able to, what will they do with the whale since it's not alive?
State Department of Environmental Conservation says it's monitoring the whale necropsy going to be performed sometime later this morning. This dad came over with his kid to see what all the fuss was about.
Like, how rare is it for this to happen?
Yeah, we skipped homework because we saw it on the Citizen app, so we decided that we would just come down and check it out. So it's pretty cool. It's really interesting to see, the whales show up here on the beach. Yeah, it's pretty sad case, but we said that we're going to put our scientist hat and come out and investigate.
Yeah, it is believed to be the second death of the year in that stretch of beach between Montauk and Cape May. While we're in Queens, just days before the start of Holy Week, the NYPD investigating 2 incidents of vandalism at churches in Queens. The statue of St. Francis of Assisi in front of St. Rita's Roman Catholic Church has a blue paint all over it. It was defaced sometime over the weekend. The pastor there, his name is Felix Sanchez, says he wants parishioners to still come to church, not be worried about this act of vandalism. This church has been around for about 125 years.
I am more worried about the people not feeling free to express their faith.
Well, and of course, that's what happens when people do things like this. A man actually who has a business across the street says he sometimes goes to this church, says he's going to try to clean up the statue. He's already started to.
I saw the blue paint, mortified. Why somebody would do something like that.
It is amazing. As for whoever's responsible for the vandalism, Father Sanchez sent out a message of peace saying that he'd be willing to talk to this guy.
In the mentality of dialogue and understanding, you are welcome. You are welcome. And we are going to keep going on in our faith.
It's the second act of vandalism in just a week. So the statue of the Blessed Mother in front of St. Gertrude's Roman Catholic Church in Far Rockaway, that was knocked over and smashed. The 100-year-old statue has been vandalized 3 times in the past 5 months, and they say this time it is so bad it likely won't be able to be fixed. The pastor there calls the vandalism just before Holy Week especially troubling, and added that the parish will have to get a whole new statue. What is wrong with people? It's just amazing. 542, deposed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in court here in New York yesterday has learned that his case is not going to be dismissed. There were dueling protests yesterday outside the courthouse by Venezuelans on both sides of the issue.
What's best for Venezuela is for Nicolas Maduro to face justice. Since Nicolas Maduro has been kidnapped,
a federal judge said no to dropping narco trafficking charges against Maduro. He was captured in January during that military raid on his compound in Caracas along with his wife. Both have pled not guilty. Maduro's lawyer says he can't continue to represent him unless sanctions are lifted, denying Maduro access to Venezuelan government money, because that's where his money is. The judge says he'll have to rule on that later. 543. In the wake of protests outside synagogues that turned pretty ugly in recent months, one on the Upper East Side, another in Kew Gardens, Queens, City Council Speaker Julie Menem proposed the so-called buffer zones of up to 100 feet outside houses of worship, part of a 5-point action plan to combat anti-Semitism. There were some free speech concerns about this all, but this bill yesterday ultimately passed the city council. It essentially requires the NYPD to develop a plan when there's going to be protests. So it'll be up to the NYPD to decide how close these protesters can get.
The plan will determine whether a security perimeter is needed, and if so, how far the perimeter should extend from the entrance and the exit to the house of worship.
That's the city council speaker. Mayor Mamdani has not said whether he'd veto the legislation, which was passed with a veto-proof majority of 44 votes out of 51 members. The bill states that the NYPD plan should address and contain the risk of physical obstruction, physical injury, intimidation, interference, while protecting the rights of free speech. The bill also requires that the NYPD post its plans publicly, provide a point of contact, and engage with both religious leaders and protesters. Now, the ACLU, they don't like the way this bill smells.
These security perimeters would give the NYPD broad discretion to censor speech, target protesters, and arrest dissenters.
Now, the bill drew objections from a range of voices, including some left-leaning council members.
We know that these incoherent bills are a message against dissent, in particular against pro-Palestinian voices.
These bills in no way infringe on the First Amendment right to protest, which is sacrosanct. The bills don't even talk about protests.
Still, the legislation passed easily. 44 votes of that, 51 members. Mayor Mamdani has not expressed support for this bill, but has also not discussed any potential veto. In a moment, we'll head over to the Plaza Auto Mall, where they got a huge surprise yesterday. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ella.
Thank you, Noah Maladen. Start on the Diamond in Queens. Mets won their home opener 11-7 over the Pirates. 5-run first inning for the Metsies, knocking reigning Cy Young Award winner Paul Skeens out of the game after just 37 pitches. Freddie Peralta went 5 innings in his Mets debut, allowing 4 runs on 6 hits and striking out 7 Pirates en route to his first win of the year. He had a double from Semien in the first inning, I believe, off Skeens, and off a big triple from Brett Beatty in the first inning off Skeens as well. And he had homers from Francisco Alvarez and rookie Carson Benji. Just made the team a few days ago, final days of spring training, and he comes out opening day, puts one in the seats right away. So the Mets with a big win to open their year. Yankees back at it today, this afternoon, 4:35 p.m. against the Giants. Game 2 of 3 in their opening series. Cam Schlittler will start there. Head to the hardwood in Charlotte. Knicks lost 114-103 to the Hornets. They would have clinched a playoff berth with a win, but a loss came up short. Up next for them, they'll be at Oklahoma City come Sunday night. Nets back at it tonight out west in LA against the Lakers. That's a 10:30 p.m. start there. College basketball Sweet 16 action. Results from yesterday: Purdue beating Texas 79-77. Iowa beating Nebraska 77-71. Arizona over Arkansas 109-88, and Illinois over Houston 65-55. Iowa will play Illinois in the Elite Eight tomorrow, and Purdue will face Arizona. Sweet 16 action will wrap out tonight, 7:10 p.m. We're all looking forward to this one. 5-seed St. John's against 1-seed Duke. The Blue Devils there, 6.5-point favorites. Then at 7:35, you get 4-seed Alabama against 1-seed Michigan. Michigan there, 8.5-point favorites. 9:45 p.m. tonight, 3-seed Michigan State against 2-seed UConn. The Huskies there, 1.5-point favorites. And wrapping out the action tonight, 10:10 p.m. at 6-seed Tennessee and 2-seed Iowa State. Iowa State there, 3.5-point favorites. On the ice, the Islanders, they beat the Stars in Elmont 2-1. And out in Nashville, the Devils doubled up the Predators 4-2. Rangers back at it tonight at the Garden. They'll welcome the Blackhawks at 7. That's your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Let's head out to Brooklyn. A car slammed into an Acura dealership at the Plaza Auto Mall on Nostrand Avenue yesterday. Witnesses say the driver backed up into a roll-down gate and ripped through part of the front wall.
Sounded like a bomb went off. Ducked and everything. It was terrifying.
The customer was trying to make a right turn, so he backed up to angle out. He said it switched gears.
boom.
Yeah, big oopsie. I mean, thankfully, nobody seriously hurt. Employees say customers were actually sitting in the waiting area of the Plaza Auto Mall and behind that wall that he smashed into when the car came crashing through. So it could have been a whole lot worse. Thankfully, it was.
He was sitting right there on that corner where he went in shock, and the wall kind of collapsed on top of him. So
Just a freak accident that scared everybody.
Yeah.
I was in shock. This doesn't happen all the time.
No, thankfully it doesn't. 2 people taken to the hospital with minor injuries. The Department of Buildings actually had to come in and inspect the structure of the building, issued a partial vacate order for the waiting room that was damaged in the crash. It was an emotional afternoon in a Bronx courtroom yesterday after a man who killed a 13-year-old girl back in 1999 was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Last November, a jury found Joseph Martinez guilty of murdering minor Liz Soriano. Prosecutors say Martinez sexually assaulted the girl before strangling her, and days later her body was found in a dumpster in the Bronx. Now, the case had gone cold until November of 2021 when investigators used new forensic testing at their fingertips. Here's Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark talking about how they never gave up on solving this case.
A DNA sample from a semen stain on the victim's sweatshirt was submitted, and it led to Martinez. Today is the final chapter after 27 years of anguish.
This is the first case in New York City to be solved by using familial DNA. That means the DNA from the victim's sweatshirt was entered into a database with the hope that a male relative of the suspect would show up and help narrow down who the killer was. So yesterday, the family members had a final say to talk about this killer and their loved one who died so many years ago. Here's one of her best friends who spoke in the courtroom.
I just want to say that I made a promise to Mr. Lease in 1999, and I just want to say that today we kept that promise.
Yeah, Martinez sentenced yesterday 25 years to life for sexually abusing and strangling that 13-year-old girl back in 1999. She had dreamed of being an astronaut years, as a child. She would be 40 years old today. That's how many years ago back we go. 552. Gun violence remains at last year's record lows here in New York City. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch talking about this yesterday.
The reductions that we've seen across the city have been most pronounced in communities historically plagued by the scourge of gun violence. These are the places that have been hit hardest by violent crime.
Tisch says so far this year to date, officers have taken 1,000 illegal guns off the streets.
Putting an unprecedented number of officers, almost 2,000 officers every single night on the streets in the neighborhoods where the gun violence has historically occurred.
Police commissioner says the strategies including going after gangs and maintaining a heavy police presence in neighborhoods with historically high gun violence incidents is working. 553 up to Mount Vernon, where a detective there is facing charges accused of conspiring. I can hear that, Tony, by the way. A Mount Vernon detective is facing charges accused of conspiring to share illegal weapons with alleged gang members on Long Island. 34-year-old Kyron Braunskill was just sworn in as a Mount Vernon police detective last Thursday. Now, exactly 1 week later, Mount Vernon officials say he's been placed on suspended duty. Suffolk County District Attorney's Office arrested him yesterday. He's one of 18 people named in a broad indictment. The development shocking many in Mount Vernon.
You're a sworn officer to protect and serve. You got families that lost loved ones in Long Island as well. So do you have the audacity to sell guns, to take the oath? What do you, really? Throw the book at him.
Yeah, Braunkill is accused of offering to sell and selling guns to several people, including high-ranking gang members in Riverhead in 2021 and 2022. Prosecutors allege those firearms were later used both in fatal and non-fatal shootings. How about those Mets? They won their home opener against the Pirates 11-7 yesterday. Fans outside the stadium all excited about this team.
Well, I'm a season ticket holder, so this is my 5th straight opening day.
Saturday. I'm waiting for my friend of mine. We're going to tailgate in the parking lot. So I'm here. That's why I'm here so at the break of dawn so early in the morning.
It's basically like a national holiday for us Mets fans, to be honest. Like, we say a happy opening day to each other. We're going to go meet up with the 7 line.
Yeah, hope springs eternal.
You know, a fresh team, fresh blood, and honestly, no more bottom of the ninth choking.
Particularly looking for is the pitching staff, because I think that's what kind of hurt us last year. A lot of our pitchers couldn't go past 4th inning or 5th inning, so I'm just hoping the pitching staff with the new additions that we have, that we can go pitch further deep into the game. And that actually helped the bullpen out. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, it was a great day. It was beautiful, too. Citi Field, again, rated the best stadium for food in the nation.
This, as Citi Field in Flushing, Queens, is offering 32 new food items this year. They include bulgogi cheesesteak spring rolls, chopped cheese patties, wings, empanadas, and not your average burgers, joining the traditional pizza and hot dogs. The item getting the most attention is the so-called 999 viral challenge. 9 small beers and 9 mini hot dogs to go along with the 9 innings in baseball.
Oh my God.
In New York, I'm Kristen Marks.
That's a lot of beer and hot dogs. And the St. John's men's basketball team going to be in the spotlight tonight as they take on number 1 seed Duke, Sweet 16 NCAA tourney. Player Dylan Mitchell all pumped about this game.
It's awesome. Just the fans being here, supporting us. I mean, this is why we play. We play for the name on the front of our jersey, St. John's University. We play for all the fans. We play for each other.
Red Storm has not been this far in the tournament since 1999. Duke is the favorite by 6.5. Tip-off scheduled for 7:10 tonight. And we'll end, they say I never do any happy stories, but a story with a happy ending at least. A Bronx man, we told you about this story earlier in the week. He had gone on vacation and he had left his 4 bulldogs with a pet sitter. And the pet sitter came and picked up the dogs, as he saw on his doorbell camera, and then he never returned them. So when he came home from vacation, the dogs were gone. Pet sitter said, I don't know what happened to them. So he apparently sort of decided he was going to follow this dog walker around, follow people in the neighborhood around. And he was given a tip that these 4 dogs were in a building near his house. And so he camped outside this building yesterday. And somebody walked out with all 4 of his dogs. He confronted this person. He said, those are my dogs. The guy said, oh. And he handed the 4 dogs back to Baez. Sort of strange. Baez says he's just happy to have what he called his fur babies back home. Why and how this guy got the dog and whether he'll go after him legally, that remains to be seen.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?